Oh, I did it again. I'm talking in English. I'm recording the podcast again. Many podcasts, different podcasts, ticket podcasts. Pop, 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 pop. Ah, the volume's not up. Well, it's gonna be loud. I didn't have a plan. I should write it down. Maybe very soon. How it suits you to not be shy. YouTube, a creator of all creator. 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 YouTube, a creator, all creator. YouTube. YouTube, don't be shy, get out there, in there, yo, YouTube. I haven't planned it, I don't know how I'm gonna work, it's crazy, fuck you too, my love you.
What is doing that? You're not guarding.
Yeah.
Is what connects us all. So I think you've even talked about it a long time ago. You'd mentioned like the McDonald's arches. If there's not a McDonald's sign, but we see those golden arches, that everyone knows like that's McDonald's, like that's French fries. So it's French fries.
That is French fries. It is.
But it's that concept of the interconnectedness within us all, and what that connectedness is the energy that we are made up of. And that energy exists in that thought realm, and they all just bump into each other, like on random occurrences and in really big ways, like calculus.
Yeah, and the thought realm is, from what I am conceptualizing, a dimension. Again, I've said it like 3 times already, but if it's a dimension and we know there to be more than likely other beings that exist within other dimensions that are, whether angels, aliens, fairies, whatever, there are other intelligent, energetic beings like ourselves that exist without a flesh suit within these other dimensions. There could be beings putting things and thoughts into the thought realm, either for our benefit or to harm us. Exactly. So I like to think of like guardian angels in this conversation, because sometimes you just have a thought and you're like, I'm not going to go that way to work today. Why did I have that thought? Why did I just change direction and going to work?
Yeah.
Or I have a bad feeling about going to work. Like you hear that about like school shootings or 9/11, like people just had a bad feeling. Where did that thought come from?
Right.
Like, sure, it could come from intuition or just like this interconnectedness like you talk about, but it could also come from a more intelligent being that is helping guide us, like angel numbers, for example. I was listening to a Know Thyself episode recently, and Daniel was talking about how in the past, people didn't have clocks. People didn't have digital clocks like laying around literally everywhere. So in this modern age, numbers are so powerful, and the beings that like guardian angels can communicate through these symbolic channels. So therefore, clocks and numbers is a commonly used channel by these beings and angels to communicate with us through in a more direct way.
Yeah.
But the most direct way is just into your brain. And a lot of people talk about having, I mean, not a lot of people, but if you do research into religious experiences, there are people who say it just popped into my brain, or a voice came into my head and I just had this thought of a voice that I didn't know where it came from. So this is again a use of this thought realm, this thought dimension, to directly communicate, whether for good or for bad, to us on this physical dimension.
And I think when it comes to things that, like propaganda, for instance, the powers that be, social engineers, whatever you want to call it, they know this. They know that it
Absolutely.
exists. So when it comes to propaganda, you know, we're talking about these thoughts can incite feelings of peace, comfort, joy, whatever, or fear or negativity. And when we when we meditate or focus on or dwell on these thoughts that we see, such as in propaganda, it begins to manifest itself in the physical reality. And that's what they want. So I mean, we could have a whole conversation about CERN and the shifting dimensions and all of that, but that's what they want. That's why, being hooked on the media is so
toxic.
Yeah, it's so toxic for so many people because it draws your attention away from your own independent thinking. And I don't mean independent that we're not all connected. I just mean you're not taking somebody else's word for it or falling...
Your discernment.
Yeah, and you're not falling prey to thoughts that are not your own.
Yes.
From a negative sort of direction.
I mean, look at the last 2 years we've experienced with this pandemic. Like, a lot of people you talk to are not speaking words that are their own. They are blatantly repeating, and a lot of them don't realize they're doing it, but they are repeating words of politicians, of people who they have given the power of their thoughts to without even realizing it. It's a really deep concept too when you talk about this kind of stuff, because people who understand the thought realm can not only implant thoughts into your head that are not your own, but they can subconsciously influence you to believe almost anything. I recently posted something on Instagram, on our Awake Not Woke Instagram, about Disney, and they have been subtly putting chemtrails in so many Pixar movies. Like, if you look at the sky, a blue sky in a Pixar or a Disney movie, there's like almost always a chemtrail through it, which is not a normal thing. Back in 1800s, there were not lines of clouds through the sky. But now all of a sudden, even in our Disney movies, there's lines of clouds going through the sky, just subtly putting in there that this is normal. And your kids grow up and watch that, and then they look up at the sky, and there's no conscious connection being made that, like, I looked up at the sky in my Disney movie and saw this line of clouds, and now I look up at the sky in the real world and there's a line of clouds. Yeah. These little kids or even adults aren't consciously making those thoughts. But when you're constantly shown this common thing, you don't think of it as much. Or, for example, in Disney movies, there are a lot of hidden sexual references in Disney movies, which is just really fucking creepy. But it's gross. Sexualizing our children earlier, making pedophilia more normalized. Like, there's all these disgusting ideas they can slowly introduce to you that you would not have considered had they just said, like fucking kids, and it's normal, right?
Right.
Like, no one's gonna be like, yeah, that's normal. Like, you know what I mean? But they can eventually convince you of these fucked up things, or like fucking injecting yourself with mystery liquid. Like,
and if going back to that, if thought is action in the spirit realm, that's spiritual warfare. What they're doing, implanting those thoughts, implanting those ideas, making it normal, going into your subconscious, that is spiritual warfare. And I think spiritual warfare can take on many different connotations and many different concepts. I think you can think about it from a lot of different angles, but specific to the thought realm, that's literally it. I mean, one thing that I found, again, because I'm going into the Bible for everything these days, is that it's a literal commandment for us to manage our thoughts. So by being hooked on the media and not independent thinking, you're actually violating that commandment. You're not doing that. You're not guarding those thoughts. And when we get into the subconscious, we talked about in the Law of Attraction episode, I mentioned, that's your heart. So what does the Bible say about your heart all the time? Guard your heart. Guard your subconscious. Make sure that the thoughts that you have are pure. Make sure that the things, these motives that govern your life are pure and of God. Because if they're not, where I think it's what's in the heart, the mouth speaks, or something like that. I mean, it's so important. And I think from a spiritual perspective, we kind of bypass that. Yeah. We think a lot about, positive thoughts, don't have negative thoughts. Yep. But we don't think about how those things really can enhance or harm our spirit, and not only our spirit, but our relationship with God.
And that goes both ways. The whole, like, what would you say about in the Bible? It's like our right to,
as a commandment.
Yeah. That goes both ways in today's society, because a lot of this, like, the media is lying to you, the media is controlling you, is very directed at, like, Democrats, but it goes both ways. It goes both ways. It's very very much the same thing, Republican, Democrat, whatever. But the spiritual warfare plays in the idea where they're manipulating everyone's thoughts. They're on both sides. The
No doubt.
Democratic side, they're convincing you to like shut up, wear a mask, give me your rights, like give me your guns, no, don't do anything. But on the Republican side, they're convincing you like focus on gay marriage and focus on all these like little battles, or like Trump is the best guy ever. Let's just like all for Trump, like
Right.
fuck Joe Biden. Like we're all caught up in this stupid back and forth that means nothing, or arbitrarily not allowing your kids to play with dolls just because you don't want them to grow up in this liberal society, or like
Right.
it goes hardcore both ways. And I'd like to point that out, because clearly not all our listeners realize that we're not on either one of those sides.
And it's not about that. We were talking about that earlier. You know, when it comes to relationship with God, it's it's not about whether or not you're Democrat, Republican,
Exactly.
Libertarian,
Christian, Buddhist.
It doesn't. God is God. And when we try to break it down into man-made standards, words, rules, it doesn't make sense, and it's not an accurate depiction of who God is and what our relationship with God could be. There's one other verse that I found about the heart specifically, and I'm going to get into a little conversation about sin, just lightly, not super deep into it, but I kind of had a light bulb moment on that too. So Psalms 119:11 says, "In my heart I store up your words so I might not sin against you." So I think when it comes to sin, especially in these religious communities, sin can be so many things. But when we're talking about the concept of the Bible was written a long ass time ago. So we have to take that into account when we're thinking about this.
Yes, always.
But when we don't purify our hearts, when we don't govern our thoughts, that's, like I said, violating that commandment. And that's essentially what sin is. It's going against those things. So the Bible also talks about, I keep your words written on my heart. That's why, because your heart is your subconscious. Your subconscious fuels your conscious, which is your thoughts. So it's really important to remember that, because we are called to sanctify our hearts, to purify it, to make it holy.
Yeah, that's really interesting too, specifically with the sin thing, because I remember Know Thyself talking about how sin is also a word that means how much off the mark you miss. So like in archery,
Yes.
if you hit the bullseye, there's no sin. But if you're a little off the mark, that's your sin. It's how far off the bullseye you are. So with what you're saying, that makes so much sense, because to sin would be you're off the mark with your own thoughts and your own heart. You're allowing someone else to control your thoughts or your heart, and it's not purified, so it's purely your own. It's being influenced by someone else. Because if you are pure of heart and pure of mind, in my brain, how I would interpret that would be mean you have ultimate discernment. You are clear that this is your pathway. You are making your own decisions. You are making your own observations of what is right, what is wrong. You're not allowing someone else to tell you what is right or what is wrong. That someone who is impure of heart or of mind can't.
Kalabanga, wanga, wanga, yawinga, wanga, wanga. Aborigine, Islam, Chile, Australia, England. Anyway, love. Pomme, uma, ea, o. Que la ma era este.
Awake.
Para. Oh, wow, karate, bomba. I want to be strong, I want to be beautiful, I want everybody to hug, kisses, smooch. All the planet extras. Awake, not awake, walk. Well, we can dance to the powers. Okay. Let's see it.
Whoa, make that clear. Awake. Nah. Whoa.
Time last year we were recording all the time that the Bigfoot footing for people who are trying to take that next step into the knowledge of the self. And I think we did do a good job of giving a nice round catalog of episodes and information.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. I think we put our best selves forward in this, and it was all done with genuine intention and the utmost love to God, to ourselves, to anybody willing to listen.
This information, the listeners,
the mysteries, the knowledge, the wisdom, everything. I mean, it's been a really unique and rewarding journey.
we talked to Sam Tripoli.
We talked to Sam fucking Tripoli. And I got to talk to Lori Ladd, not on the podcast, but like side note, mention Lori Ladd aloud, and I did get to talk to her. I don't know if I ever talked about that, but I sure did.
I think you did.
I probably did. It was beautiful.
If nothing less, I'm just so glad I talked to Sam Tripoli.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was like, I still can't believe that even happened. I mean, we manifested that shit.
Oh yeah.
110%.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there was conversation about it, and then it just came out of nowhere and it happened.
Yeah.
And it was really great.
I love it. And I could see in the deep future, Awake Not Woke or a podcast between the two of us happening again. But it's not going to be the same thing. It's going to be after we're successful and entrepreneurs making lots of money, doing our own thing. And it's going to be something that we come back to, if it ever happens, as kind of the same reason we began it to begin with, but on that new octave. You know, I could totally see that happening. And if it does, I'll keep it on the same RSS feed, and you'll see this farewell, and then you'll see another episode on it if you're coming along that far into the future. But it could also just stay as it is, and I'm okay with either one of those options, because either way, I'm gonna be making content. I'm definitely out there on the internet. Come find me. I'll probably go back and periodically update the show notes of this episode in particular.
Just with like news.
Yeah, and like what we're doing. If you find us in the future, for reference, we're recording this on May 26, 2022. And so if you're finding us anywhere in the future, obviously this is not coming out on May 26th, but after it comes out, we'll be doing our stuff. We'll be out there. So I guess it'll be in the show notes if I continue to remember updating that after all the years that are to come. But I'm really, really excited about the future. And I don't think I've ever been at a point where I was this excited and certain about my future, because I truly believe all this information that we've learned over the last year has really helped truly guide me into this very moment, and I'm excited for all the rest of the moments that come.
I am too. I'm so thankful for just.
Okay, I can do this. Look, wait up. Wait up. Wait up. It's recording. So go to this. Go to that. What's it doing? Where can I listen to? Not the NFL. Just play whatever, you idiot. Maybe you do have a bobcast or something, or whatever it is that you know about it. You probably got everything. You probably got live. The news is live, Hector. Then we go Justin. Oh, wait up. The thing up there is laughing. It's laughing because it was laughing. It was like A clown now, Hector. Silly, so oopsie. Everybody. Oh, it's still recording, so how do I get the podcast? Do I get in trouble for the podcast being there and me putting my channel now or something? Anyway, the God, I destroyed it. That person that was talking earlier, God, the stupid and God, the stupid and God, but up, God, they put up, how why, pam, pam. Pam param param pam pam. This sisterhood of troublers netball fan came full circle in Birmingham. Pat, Sue, Margaret, and Almena had completed their remarkable cycle of friendship group watching netball in Liverpool. Whoa, boo, ba 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 boo, ba 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 boo, ba ba ba. Cup of coffee, tea, be nice. As part of the referred as the Great Unifier and lauded for its ability to bring people together, perhaps Indian cricket legend Sunil Gavaskar summed it up best when he said, "Whatever language you may speak, the language of sport is common." As Pat Helen Sue by Lay Almena, the Ball and Margaret Moonford cheers on England and netball team and the Commonwealth game. They treasure every moment they get to witness the beloved Rose play as much as they simple cherish spending time together, although they all speak English and don't have to worry about barrier. This group of women have defied their own agreed pickle challenge to keep showing up for each other. And so there, then you go here, here. A lot of reading, eh? You gotta stop and read and blah. Pat Henning had collected pins at every tournament. Having some fun at the Netball World Cup in. Yeah, okay. Oh. Before Australia and New Zealand were known as the Diamonds or Silver Pen, they are set tone of the next 60 years of netball to come when they establish status as the top two team in the inaugural tournament. The Aussies won gold in the New Zealand were runners-up in the England finished third. For most of the sport lifetime, the plus scene have also been reflected in the world ranking placing. Although the narrative, okay, the group of friends at 2014. Yeah. Righto. Anyway, there you go, and keeps going. This is on the ABC Australia News, isn't it? It's so long, eh? I'm gonna go fast. You can come and find it, or however, Commonwealth game. Casey Lee Barber, Pip Australian teammate Mackenzie Little to win Commonwealth game javelin gold. So she won the gold. Casey Barber did her best throw in the final to clinch gold. World champion Zimbabwe has delivered when it matters most, claiming the Commonwealth Game gold medal in the women's javelin with her final throw. Okay. Oh, Okay, what else? What else? What else? Let's go. Are we just gonna say business? Let's say science. Science. What's this one? Here's the technology and all this. Elon Musk says 63.7 billion Twitter takeover would move ahead with bot info. Elon Musk says he would not move ahead with the deal if Twitter set feelings are entirely false. Elon Musk, his plan of 44 billion, 67 billion to take over the Twitter should move forward to the company can confirm some details about how it measure where the show account or spam bot are real people. The billion CEO, okay. So they're going to debate. They're going to go into it, see if he can buy it for 63 now. So it's higher amount now. You know what I mean? Higher amount. Okay. Tech giant want to kill off password. Here's why they think password will change the world and what that means for you. Apple and Google, Microsoft say they are working on implementing passkeys to replace. Last year, password management companies and groups of researchers found the most common password in the world was 13456. They said they show up in 103 million times. It was telling sign of most people use password with millions of other users resort in the world like password of Qwerty to secure the online account. What you remember your password in your head, write them down somewhere or use password management software. The technology has some major drawback. It's by some of the world's biggest tech companies taking part in rare collaboration to kill off the password and in its first place is happening sooner than you think. So why would we move away from password and adopt passkeys and what will mean to our digital life? The problem with password company password has been around since 1960s, but they are far from perfect. Microsoft say their hackers try to steal password around 921 times every second in 12 months to make a rate that double the space of the year. Here's some of the main issues with password. Simply one can easily guess. Okay, all that. Oh, so they can have one with your face or your finger instead of the password. And then they need that to have you to enter some way of a different expression where they send you the picture to your phone, you put your finger or your face or takes a photo or something, or you say a word and it takes it or something, or different. Stop at any time, please. It'll be different if it was wiped out so no one can hack it into your password or codes or or you're entering their name or what you call it, password, email or something. I don't know. I'm lost anyway, but everything like this. Okay, this is on the ABC. Wait up. This is not ABC News. Just in one more time. Um, no. Business. Look for the word business. Oh, BO. What's this? No. Whoopa. Walaka. What is this? QWA, that probably means Western Australia business. One more done address and state chronic skill worker shortage. Person father was what's his Nicola? WA Union warned of more industrial action as they reject go when government latest wage offer. Oh yeah, that's good, eh? Western Australia or WA Union and Western Australia were one of more industrial as they reject government latest wage. Public sector worker brave will gather to rally outside Fiona Standard Hospital on Wednesday. Ooh, yeah. Better. Hundreds of public sector workers brave strong wind rain on the rally for better pay as union announces the state government received wage off as one of the sugar hit. Stop at any time. The joint meeting of the public sector union representative, police, firefighters, prison officers, teachers, child protection, health and other public sector work buoyed to press for fair pay deal. Range of professionals were represented at the rally. Union won at least 5% of a year. The Mr. Government has offered 3% increase to the salary this year and next plus a 2-501 of payment. A union wanted government to come to table with the offer of at least 5% year. The workers say the pay offer will not keep pace with spirit living costs. Okay. Okay. Well, where were we? Here. What's this one? Labor newest Senator Fatima Payment is placing trial and she hopes others will follow. Patricia Payment is the third youngest senator in Australian history. The Tucker Parliament House officer once occupied Tony Abbott and Clive Palmer now sees the 47 Parliament youngest new member at age 27. Senator Fatima Payment is making history and is a pretty big adjustment in told friends, please don't call me Senator, and I'm still getting used to the little she laughed. Senator Payment's small team consisted of young women just as eager her for the first sitting fortnight of the Parliament. The Rocan family Payment arrived in the Senate for the first sitting of the new Parliament. Wait up, what she look like? Are these 27? Oh, so these ladies like, look at me, man, beautiful. Of some in the, this is maybe she's a story never seen like bedtime or first time. Good. 1-1 now, huh? Anyway, got me. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, I found something. I got it, and then cut it, okay. Wallo, palito, eh. Wallo, palito, cola, na. Okay, he go, God, this God. I don't know, you can do this, God.
Make the easy choice. Join 800,000 NAB business account customers. Enjoy $0 monthly fees with a NAB.
Kinds return to the moon.
Yeah, so as you say, as part of the Artemis,
It's the real thing.
exactly, they want to try experiment. They got it wrong. The lunar space station, and that's going to help deliver people back to the moon by 2025 if it all stays on course.
Right, so it's a lunar orbiter.
Yeah, Capstone stands for, deep breath, Cislunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology.
By country
Spacecraft, and this is going to pave the way for the lunar space station, and that's going to help deliver people back to the moon by 2025 if it all stays on course.
Right, so it's a lunar orbiter.
Yeah, Capstone stands for, deep breath, Cislunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology Operations and Navigation Equipment. Experiment. I got it wrong. Experiment. And basically, this thing orbits the moon in a curved orbit, taking it close to the surface and then far away, which is the same orbit as this Lunar Gateway space station wants to do.
So is this basically a test run for the real thing?
Exactly. They want to try it out with this cheap spacecraft, size of a fridge, before they put the space station up there.
So this will all be part of the Artemis program, which aims to send women to the moon.
Yeah, Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo. So she's goddess of the moon and of women and girls. That works well. Yeah, so as you say, as part of the Artemis program, NASA is intending to put the first woman on the moon. So the launch of Capstone has been COVID delayed, but it's slated to blast off between the 13th and 22nd of June, and it's been outsourced by NASA to a firm called Rocket Lab.
So I noticed in our notes here that you're calling this a sci-fi alert, which was an old segment of ours.
Yeah.
You're resurrecting it?
Well, why not? For this, there's been loads of lunar space stations in science fiction, but something that caught my eye was the first depiction of a space station in fiction. Anyone want to guess when it might be?
1890?
Oh, nearly. 1869.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah. It was a book called The Brick Moon by an American writer called Edward Everett Hale.
We're going to take a break now to tell you about our awesome free giveaway.
Yeah, this is about free, unlimited. That was Arthur Holland and Michelle, who, among other things, is a fellow at the Carnegie Council for Ethics in International Affairs. And we'll have a version of that interview on YouTube, and we'll post a link in the show notes. Next up, we've got another semi-regular segment, Lifeform of the Week, and that's when we celebrate the most amazing and intriguing living organisms on the planet. So Penny, just blow me away now with what fascinating creature you've got.
I've got chickens!
You couldn't see that coming at all.
So stay with me, it is a really fascinating story. There's a pair of new studies which suggest chickens were domesticated much more recently than we thought. And interestingly, that we don't necessarily know why they were domesticated either.
Oh, so how recently we're talking?
It looks like the earliest domestic chickens may not have lived any earlier than 3,670 years ago, which obviously isn't that recent. But it had been thought that chickens were domesticated more like 6,000 or even 10,000 years ago. So that's a really big difference.
That is a big. It's also quite precise, isn't it? 3,670 years ago. But okay, but we know chickens were domesticated from red jungle fowl in Southeast Asia. Why the mix-up? Why this? Thousands of years going wrong.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. There's various ways that researchers may get mixed up, basically, when at archaeological sites. For example, it's possible that other kinds of bird bones, for example, pheasants might mistakenly have been identified as ancient chicken bones. And another one is that if you have a burrowing animal in an archaeological site, they can sort of move small bones around, and chicken bones might sometimes get sort of pushed into older layers of archaeological sites.
Oh my God, what a nightmare they've had sorting this out.
Yeah, I don't think I could be an archaeologist, I'll tell you, too hard. But one of my favourite details in the story that Colin Barris wrote for us is that one chicken bone found at a site in Bulgaria was thought to be 7,500 years old, but radiocarbon dating suggests that it came from a chicken that was alive sometime between 1959 and 1985.
From a KFC bucket, probably.
Oh, possibly.
Okay, so you can see how it's easy to get mixed up. But what was it you said about not knowing why people domesticated them? Because isn't it obviously for meat?
So apparently there isn't much early evidence in chicken bones that they were being butchered for meat. In fact, when they were first spread outside of their natural geographic range, early chickens seem to have often been quite carefully buried.
Well, like pets.
Yeah, like maybe. One
Right.
theory is that these would have been at the time quite exotic creatures, so they were given some kind of special treatment. And, like we always get in these kinds of studies, people are suggesting maybe we assign them spiritual significance, like an association with some deity or similar. But they may have had other uses too. Eggs, obviously. Perhaps even sounding the alarm, like a bird equivalent of like a guard dog, which we know geese have sometimes been used for.
Right, okay. Well, then, since then, of course, they've become the most numerous domesticated creature on Earth. And so it must have taken off pretty quickly.
Yeah, sadly for the chicken, it seems like within a few centuries of living in Europe, chicken was on the menu and the birds were no longer revered and given this sort of special treatment.
Yeah, so much the worse for them and for the environment.
Lastly, in recent months, doctors around the world have been reporting many mysterious cases of children suddenly developing liver failure. Michael, you've been looking into this. What can you tell us about it?
So what's been happening in a few children is their livers are becoming inflamed and damaged to the extent that this organ can't do its usual job of removing waste products from the blood. the medical term for this is acute hepatitis, and one of the main symptoms of it is a yellowing of the skin or the whites of the eyes, what we call jaundice.
So you say a few children. How many have been affected?
As of the end of May, the World Health Organization has reports of around 650 cases. Most of the cases are in Europe, the US, and Canada, but there are also reports from further afield: Japan, Korea, Indonesia, Argentina, and so on. So the good news is that most of these children have recovered, but so far 38 have needed transplants and 9 have died.
That's awful. And with the transplants, this means that children will be on immunosuppressant drugs the rest of their lives. So it's really quite major for them, isn't it? Do we have any idea what's causing it and what can be done to prevent more cases?
I'm afraid the short answer is no. So we know that sudden liver failure can be caused by a number of viruses and by various toxins. The drug paracetamol, by the way, is a really common cause of liver failure, which is why it's so important not to take so much. But these sort of usual causes have been ruled out in these children, so it's a bit of a mystery.
So the UK health authorities have been saying, haven't they, that the leading suspect is a kind of cold virus known as the adenovirus?
That's right, and that's because in the UK, when they've been testing these children, they found adenoviruses in 70% of the children with hepatitis. But it doesn't explain everything, because adenoviruses usually only cause liver failure in children whose immune systems aren't working properly. And they also damage the liver by infecting liver cells directly, yet when they've looked at liver samples from these children, they're not finding these adenoviruses actually in liver cells. So this doesn't sort of explain everything. It leaves a lot of unanswered questions.
And what about coronavirus? We've had that, of course, all the time. So is there some COVID link?
Well, it's possible, and in fact we know that SARS-CoV-2 can infect livers directly on rare occasion, but that's ruled out in these children too. So that leaves the possibility that there's something more subtle going on. Perhaps COVID is disrupting their immune system in some way that leads to liver damage later on. So, for instance, one idea that's been proposed is that COVID can oversensitize the immune system, and then when you do get an adenovirus infection, the immune system overreacts, and it's that overreaction that is damaging the liver.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's hard to test children to know if they've had COVID at some point rather than if they have COVID now. So I guess in theory it could be that these children have had COVID and then the adenovirus or some other virus, and that's what's triggered this hepatitis.
Yeah, that's this idea that the combination of the two is one of the many ideas that's been investigated, and hopefully we're going to find out more soon, because it really matters in terms of treating these cases. So, for instance, if this is some kind of immune overreaction, what you want to do is treat it by damping down this immune response. But if it's a viral infection, then the last thing you want to do is suppress the immune system. So it's really important to find out as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Michael. I hope we find out more soon.
That's it for this week. Thanks to our guests on the pod, Michael LePage and Adam Vaughan, and our AI man, Arthur Holland Michel. And thanks to you for listening. One more thing to say is we're recording a special episode of the show live at the Blue Dot Festival at Jodrell Bank in Cheshire. And on the panel, we've got New Scientist's own in-house astronomer, Abby Beale. We've got Emmy-nominated composer, Hannah Peel. We've got geologist, Chris Jackson. And we've got physicist and diversity champion, Jess Wade. So go to discoverthebluedot.com to find out more.
Do remember to rate our show and subscribe and tell all your friends and family to listen, every single one of them. I'm Penny Sarche.
And I'm Rowan Hooper. Bye for now and take care. See you next week.
Bye.
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 Book your next trip with Webjet, Australia's #1 online travel agent.
Because I've never probably heard a dog growl before. So like, what's this thing noise?
Anyway, I'm going to do a little bit and then cut it and goodbye. My show, go, people. Something wrong. La 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 dee da da dee da dee da da dee da pum parim pum parim pum 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 parim pum 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 parim pum. another planet, another planet, another dimension, another planet, another planet, another dimension. Come, pom, 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 chicka, adio, adio, ama.
That she's making, why? She then slowly pulled away and a mother. So it was like, whoa, quiet growl. And I'm like, whoa, what's she making that noise for? I didn't realise she were growling. You know, I'm 6 years old. I didn't know she were growling at someone out at window. I didn't even know what the noise was, because I've never probably heard a dog growl before. So it was like, what's this noise that she's making? Why? She then slowly pulled away and a muzzle away from the glass of the window very slowly and dropped down onto the ground, never taking a look from that window. And she started walking backwards, really, really slow, as she's still got this low, quiet growl going on. She gets to the centre of the room and spins round. I have never seen anything move as quick as that. And she spun round that fast and legged it into that kitchen like fast, like something were chasing her. Everything kind of went silent, just like it did in the woods. That silent, strange atmosphere. Bearing in mind, when I'm in that room, I can hear that washer going that doof, 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 or when it spun. You know, I could hear the television. But this silence, the telly's still on, but there's no noise from anywhere. Nothing. And I thought, what was she looking at out of that window? And I kind of comes away from the wall. I kind of puts my face up to glass. And all I'm seeing now is like, if one of the window, you know, houses opposite have got the lights on, I could see it. I could see the lights. But anything closer than that, I couldn't see because of the reflection.
Hi there, I'm K-Town, and on this edition, I'm want you to risk your life without, being.
What the fuck did I? Oh, I'm tripping out. I just. Oh. ¿Qué está pasando? ¿Qué está andando? Más parando. Es la Rosa María. Es la Rosa María. Es la Rosa María. El campo, el caballero. Hablemos de esto. Cambiamos el tiempo. Todo viene. Cambiamos, cultivamos. Arriba vamos. ¿Qué pasa? Pasa. Todo arreglamos. Si te quiero, yo te bueno. Tú eres bueno, que eres bueno. I love you so with the patio and roll. Everybody put your hands up in the air like you don't care. Suck the can. Love you. Daddy party with the mighty daddy with the body waddy in the body daddy in the jolly waddy man. Point taken and breaking extraterrestrial technology bands, coronavirus, antivirus, Japan, you're Americano, no, Labiano, sporty, other country, planet, Chileno, Australiano, ¿qué me está pasando? Wando.
I dated once someone who was a nutritionist. Basically, they worked in a hospital in the medical field. They were a medical professional. I thought, as a filmmaker, actor, writer, that there's no business more corruptible than Hollywood. She says the same is going on in the medical profession. People backstabbing and cheating and having adultery and all this stuff. Maybe like Jack Parsons, it's going on in the rocket industry. But it's going on in the music industry. It's going on in the gold industry. It's going on in the Walmart industry. I guess it just boils down to the individual. And when Peter preached in the book of Acts, chapter 2, I think, to the first message being preached about redemption, he said, save yourself from this corrupt generation. We don't exactly save ourselves. We qualify for salvation for letting go of their sin. It's like we're all fallen overboard. The Bible says that no one is good, not even one. So we've all fallen overboard. And Jesus is the life preserver, which is thrown out. But if we hold on to our world, our TV, our phone, or whatever else, we got kind of the life preserver in one arm, and we've got our possessions and everything in the other arm. The storms are rough. I think we're going to have to let go of our sin and use both hands to take hold of Jesus. When we do that, we take hold of eternal life, and we take hold of eternal life by letting go of our sin. And most people just don't give up their sin. That's just the way that it is. Jesus says, wide is the gate, broad is the road that leads to destruction, and most people go that way. But narrow is the way to life, and only a few find it. God is not a torturer. This idea that people are tortured forever in hell is something the Catholic Church created to sell indulgences. Now, if I were to take a chicken, and I hope you're not offended because people eat chicken, right? And I threw a chicken into a fire, it would just be burned up. It's not for all eternity going off. It only ran a little bit faster. I could have escaped part. No, it's just dead forever. So after Judgment Day, you're either burned up and you're dead forever. You're not being tortured forever. God's not a torturer. And remember, eternal life is for the redeemed. If you're in hell forever being tortured, you also have eternal life, right? But that's not the case. Eternal life is only for the redeemed. God is not going to let the wicked live forever. Only the redeemed. And it's not that we're not wicked too. We are. But we renounce sin. We let go of it to take hold of Jesus, all right? So, this guy, Jack Parsons, and the other people in the medical field and the Walmart field, everyone's doing their own little thing. And to me, the moon landing is the epitome of it. It is probably the government fraud that killed the fewest number of people. I mean, if you really think about it, K-Town, it's like, even the Kennedy witness list, the Kennedy assassination witness list was like 200 people. And then the Gulf of Tonkin killed 1 million people, and the 9/11 killed 3,000. The moon landing fraud maybe killed 15 people, 20 people, 25 people, something like that. Fewer than any other government fraud. And yet, here's the thing. It would shock the public the most. That's why, get this, listen very carefully, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones never talk about it. Now, isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
You got Alex Jones with a NASA shirt on, hugging Joe Rogan, who called me up in the year 2000 when we were about to release a Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and says, I'm fully behind you. What can I do to help? He takes me out to dinner. He takes me out to some fancy restaurant in L.A. What can I do? Help me, whatever. Then he changes his mind. I mean, imagine this, K-Town. Imagine you and I are in Vegas. We're sitting in the audience of David Copperfield, and he levitates an elephant in front of us. And we're like, shit, man, that's incredible. How did you do that? Right? And then he invites us backstage, and we see the crane and the lift, And then we go back in the audience, and he says, be amazed again. Can we be amazed again? Is that possible? No. I mean, after we've seen the
crew, no.
We saw the elephant raised from the audience. We went backstage and saw the crane, lifting the elephant. We go back in the audience. Can we be amazed back in the audience again? So Joe Rogan claims that he originally saw that the moon landings were fake. And now he says he first thought they were real. Then he realizes they were fake. Now he thinks they're real again. Is that even possible? I don't know. I mean, that seems a little odd to me. And, there's got to be controlled opposition somewhere. Now, you know who Bill Wood was?
No, who is that?
Bill Wood. Look at Bill Wood from the 90s. Bill Wood said the moon landings were fake a long time ago. Worked for the military, and then said Alex Jones made a false witness against him. Said he cursed on his program, and he never cursed on his program. And then Alex Jones said something like, I understand he's allegedly a Christian, and he uses the F word a lot, although I use the S.
SBS live streams and podcasts are supported by advertising.
SBS is Australia's most trusted
Doing today, changing it all the time. Okay, many things can be true if these extraterrestrials or the planets coming to see us, where we have different channels to end to our life, because they got channels where our life could end instead of going to heaven or something. Or if we can't go to heaven, or what is God with us to God in the Bible, God or something, another comes here to different portals to take us different. It's different. We end up somewhere different, not in heaven or something. Why is that, God? And then you God, blood do God, India, Pakistan, Chile, Australia, Philippines, New Zealand. I love you too. Everything goo. Oh, the other episode. Oh, naughty, Hector, naughty. Look at this. Here we go. Blood God.
Lingual broadcaster. Our listeners
to SBS On The Money with Ricardo Gonçalves.
Hi everyone, it's your daily 10-minute business and finance news wrap for this Thursday, the 4th of August 2022. Later, the market ends flat, but technology stocks have risen to their highest in about 3 months. But first, to interest rates, because each of the big four banks have confirmed today that they will pass on the Reserve Bank's 50 basis point increase in the official cash rate to their customers. But it'll happen at different times. So for home or variable home loans, ANZ, the Commonwealth Bank and NAB will lift their rates on August the 12th, Westpac on August the 18th. And each of the banks will be passing on those increases to their savings customers, but it might be a little bit difficult to find out where and by how much. For more, I spoke earlier with Effie Zahos. She's a money expert at CanStar. Effie, the big banks are finally confirming they'll pass on the RBA's 50 basis point rise from a few days ago. Surely this is no surprise, but some are also cutting fixed rates. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, look, as you say, it's not a surprise. Still a lot of pain. It could have been worse. I mean, had those inflation numbers come in a lot higher, then the RBA may have considered a 0.75% rate hike. It didn't. So this was expected. Now, interesting, as you point out, fixed rates have gone. So you've got the Commonwealth Bank now that has just reduced its 4-year fixed term. You could say, the cynic in me, the rate has dropped because obviously a whole lot of fixed rate loans are about to expire. So they want to sweep this up. They know there's going to be a fixed rate cliff happening. They want to get these customers on board. So look, for consumers, if you're wanting certainty, then that's what fixed rates are all about. But the bigger picture here is, what does that mean for long-term rates? When I see fixed rates falling, does that mean that they're expecting in the long-term rates to actually do a turnaround? And you've got some economists already saying that the rates will contract in 2024. So that's what homeowners have to consider now. And I suspect CBA will not be the only bank that's looking at cutting its longer-term fixed rates.
On the other side of the coin, we let's talk about savers, right? Some are being rewarded, but are there any signs perhaps that this part of the market may start to soon see the benefits of rising interest rates?
Yeah. Look, for savers, if there was to be any silver lining with rates increasing, savers should be benefiting. And they've been waiting for such a long time to get their money to be working harder. It's a shame it took the Treasurer to come out and basically slap the banks on the wrist and say, hey, hold it. Why does it take you so long to increase rates on saving accounts? And you do it really fast when it comes to home loans. Consumers have asked this question for years and years and years. Why does it take them so long to increase rates on saving accounts? I am seeing rates go up on saving accounts, but they're being very strategic as to where they're putting these rates. Typically, you'll find that on a term deposit over 9 months, so they want you to lock in longer. When it comes to kind of your everyday online saving accounts, it's on bonus rates. So you've got a good 4 or 5 months, and then it reverts back to their base rate. So for the savers, unfortunately, it is a case of you do have to look around. And there are some good rates. I mean, look at Macquarie, 3.1%. It has a base rate and a promotional rate. That's a solid rate. But look, at the end of the day, I don't mean to bring bad news, but when you've got inflation sitting up that 6%, ideally probably going up to 7%, your money in the bank is going backwards still.
Okay, CanStar's come out with some research as well today about first home buyers. Let's talk about to what extent they're feeling stressed about scrapping together a deposit and why. Because this comes at a time where house prices generally are starting to come off the boil.
Yeah. So the survey results from CanStar showed as many as 9 out of 10 are actually stressed about getting a property, saving for a deposit and getting this property. And that's not surprising, is it, when we think about it? Yes, property prices are falling, but we've got rising interest rates. So a lot of that may offset the loss in the price of a property as well. But then throw in the cost of living. So you've got everything else around you so expensive, and the battle to get that deposit is made all the more harder. And it was interesting to see in their research that it looks like the bank of mum and dad may be closed for quite a few people, actually. And again, that result wasn't surprising, because you think about what's happened with our superannuation funds. The majority of balance funds did end the financial year in a negative situation. And when you've got rising interest rates, that actually makes it harder for super funds to get some quality good investments. So parents, I suspect, are starting to think, hold it, my nest egg needs a little bit of love here. The bank of mum and dad is shut now for children. In that case, also, the results from CanStar showed that a lot more are relying on the government assistance that is out there. So we're talking about the home guarantee schemes, jumping in with a 5% deposit or a 2% deposit, and shared equity schemes. Let's not forget the Albanese government introduced the shared equity scheme to kick off in January next year, but a lot of state and territories do have those already.
Effie Zahos there from CanStar. The Australian share market was pretty flat today, the 200 at 6,974, but the technology sector really outperformed. For more, I spoke earlier with Gemma Dale. It's Gemma Dale from NAB Trade.
The Nasdaq's off, around 30% so far this year. It's had a shocking run. We knew it was coming, right? It's been by far the best performing index over some time. And it's been because people were willing to pay, investors were willing to pay extraordinary multiples for companies with great growth potential, because they didn't have to worry about interest rates, right? Interest rates were basically zero. So we have seen that coming back really aggressively as rates start to rise and inflation was biting all over the world, particularly in the US. And now we have quarterly reporting season, and we're starting to get some real numbers that help investors understand whether profits are really falling or whether it's just a multiple compression and we're just not willing to pay quite as much. And at this point in time, what we're seeing is some of the companies are actually still performing really strongly. So PayPal was the big one last night. Revenues were up. Their overall volumes were up 13% over the period. That was nice. Revenues up about 10. Everyone was really happy with that. The stock popped beautifully. And then we see the flow-on effect in Australia in the morning. Everyone suddenly thinks maybe this is the time for Australia to turn around as well. So we saw Block in particular has had a really, really strong days up, as much as 5%. Again, though, it's one of those stocks that's been crushed. It's absolutely been crushed. Zip's down 90% from its peak. It hasn't popped today, and there's good reason for that. And that's because it's had a really good run over the last few days, and so it probably needed a little quiet time. And Sezzle also didn't do terribly well today, but has had a recent run. So a lot of investors are starting to feel maybe the tech sector has been hit hard enough, and it's time to put a little bit of money back in, see if you can eke something out of it.
Okay, let's talk about the banks. They're finally confirming that they're passing on the RBA 50 basis point interest rate rise to its customers. What's your view on the banks right now?
Yeah, the banks are really interesting at the moment. Probably the most important thing is that over the last several years, net interest margin, which is effectively the profit margin for the banks between what they charge and what they earn on the cash that they have, has been absolutely crushed. So historically, net interest margin should be about 4%, 3 to 4%, the difference between what you lend at and what you borrow at. And it's been down well below 2% for all of the big four and then all of the minors as well. So for so many of the banks, they've had to really crush their margins and rely on volume instead. As interest rates rise, you can expand your margins. And so what we're hoping to see, and we don't have any data yet, is those margins expanding. If you're investing in banks, and most Australians do, we have either huge exposure through our super funds or at a personal level. A lot of people really hoping to see those margins are going to start to grow, but volumes are not going to fall too much, because that's the risk, right? As interest rates rise, people are not going to borrow as much. And therefore, even though banks can earn more on what they do have, there's going to be writing far less business.
Let's talk about some global issues, oil and energy. OPEC Plus members met overnight. They are increasing production, but not by a lot. How does this play into the global growth story?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one. They said 100,000 barrels, which is considered to be, frankly, almost nothing, 0.1% of daily demand. So really nothing, very little material impact. But they've got really significant supply constraints. There's been very little investment, as you imagine, post-COVID and during the COVID period. So there's real concern that they actually can't increase their production much more than they have. In terms of the global growth story, oil prices have put a real sharp knife into the consumer, to be frank, and also many businesses that have huge petrol costs and gasoline in the US, as they call it. It's incredibly expensive. It's down below $4 a gallon now, which is quite a sort of threshold for people to think about. But even so, very high oil prices absolutely affect the consumer and businesses, and it's been a big part of the inflation story. So people were hoping more supply would help to bring the price down further than it has so far.
And everything at the end of the day links back to interest rates. We heard from the Reserve Bank this week. Some are saying, hey, it may slow down the pace of rate rises going into the future. We've still got rates rising overseas. What's the market now thinking will happen with interest rates?
Yeah, this is also a super interesting one. It's all about rates, as you say. Everyone is super focused on where rates are going to terminate and how quickly they're going to get there. The market has frankly been far more accurate in its predictions of where the interest rates were going to have to go than the RBA itself, which said that they would not have any hikes expected until 2024, and then had to start hiking in the middle of an election cycle, which is terribly unusual. At the moment, the market is pricing in rates peaking early next year at about 3.2%, but then starting to come back a little bit. So they're expecting that rates will come back to about 2.95%. That's the current expectation, and it's come back a little bit. So it was higher than that earlier. Markets are starting to feel that maybe there's a risk of a recession, that things are going to slow down, and therefore inflation is going to fall a bit or not rise quite so aggressively. And so the RBA will be able to slow its interest rate increases, but it's still, that's pretty aggressive acceleration.
Jim Medall there from NabTrade.
This SBS On The Money podcast is provided for informational...
Okay. Wow, I've probably done more than an hour. Blah, 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 blah. Not very good at interest rate. I am not very, very good. I'm going to say something like they've got gas, petrol, mining, gold, Bitcoin crashes, all these people crazy. They're beautiful, nice. They're fantastic. I love you. Oh, you're good. Very nice. But we're working on everything from floods to making new houses. People need to move out and then kill the house, start again, kill another house, start again, kill another house, start again. Many this, many that, and shops, kill the shops, it's dirty, yucky, kill fucking yucky, people cry, they lost their kids or some them died or Earth to another planet to whatever they think that they found with the rover, they took a shot with the rover, in Germany, Argentina, Chile. anyway, I'm going because it's gone too long. I don't know how far, where we at. Question the whole extraterrestrial technology, lost information, the line, war criminals, sport, houses have to be built, more building, the roads are yucky, there are big car in different park here, fix here, more here, put tar here, hotels, people to live, how to live, where that town, half of it died, death, death good, it's good, death good, the good, everything, they're living a lot, a lot of experimenting, everything crazy. Well, you can do accounting, police officer, army, join everyone, be everywhere, maybe take, move, run, especially you are nice, good, especially the markets, they've got different AS, X, sex, love you, come with me. How do you stop this, please? Reply to intermix hector YouTube. Now it's gone for long. My mother and me, oh, Dios mío, subscribe, oh, subscribe, okay, love me, please, oh, God.